What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's time for a recap of what went down on the Teen Mom 2 Season 9V Finale Special Part 3. Really quickly before we start, I want to show off this top that I bought from my friend's online store. I've been obsessed with Amy forever. It's for this goodbye party I'm throwing for myself before I move over to France. I just thought it was so Parisian. If you want to check out any of her stuff, make sure to head over to scarlettscarlet.net. And she also was so sweet to send me a beautiful passport cover as well. Again, I've been obsessed with her work since way back in like 2014 when I was a fashion writer, and you'll hear more about that in the future. But anyway, here's a recap of what went down on this week's episode of Teen Mom 2. The first couple up on the couch was Chelsea and Cole, and my eyes just could not stop trying to figure out what changed about her. I personally think that she had some veneers done. It just had that look where you're like, something changed, but I'm not exactly sure what. And I know it's in the mouth region, and that's the only thing I could think of right now. Their entire segment with Dr. Drew was talking about all of the anxiety that Chelsea had expressed feeling throughout the entire season, and I kind of felt like nothing new was really being added there. It's just a rehash of what was going on the entire season, so I really did kind of tune out. There was an audience member from last season who felt a special kind of connection to Aubrey's relationship with Cole, and so she returned again, and Cole had made her like this affirmation block, like from scratch by hand, and I feel like the meanest person ever for saying this, but I cringed so hard. Like, you know that Chrissy Teigen gif of her like at the award show, like watching something really like painfully cringeworthy go down? That was literally my face the entire time. You know, like the whole, hey, I made you something, and then like, oh, I hope you like it. I was nervous while I was making it. I was like, I don't know what it is, but to me, I feel like Cole and sometimes Chelsea as well, like I feel like they're a little bit performative. I don't know that he genuinely felt like making a block for a random woman he met for all of 5 seconds saying you are brave, you're loved, and all these things, or if he felt like it would be a good look for him to do that, especially considering how much the Teen Mom fandom like hails him as like this god, right? Like to me, it felt like more of the latter, and it was just, that's why I was like the whole time like just cringing as he was presenting it to her. We take a quick commercial break, and when we return, Catelynn and Tyler join Chelsea and Cole on the stage to talk about anxiety and depression, because Catelynn is the ultimate role model of how to handle that. Guys, doesn't she have like a horse that's like starving and not being paid attention to somewhere? I also found it quite disappointing that Tyler's own battles with anxiety and depression are yet again glossed over. They have him on stage as if he's like a Cole in this situation, because as far as we're concerned, Cole doesn't really suffer from anxiety and depression. So like talking about him being someone who's supportive of Chelsea and learning about it through having a spouse who battles with these things makes sense. But then in Tyler's case, considering he's talked about having anxiety, depression, and other psychiatric issues throughout his seasons on the show, it doesn't make sense that he's on stage talking about, oh, like I'm learning these things through being her husband. Well, no, you're battling with these things as well. And I thought it would have been interesting for Dr. Drew and Nessa to talk about the different dynamics when it comes to two people battling with these things within a marriage versus one person battling with these things within a marriage, and just like, you know, all the different nuances that go on there. But they kind of just acted like Tyler's like just this person who doesn't deal with anything, and then he's got his wife that he has to watch over, when that could not be further from the truth. I would have been more interested in learning about how Catelynn has potentially learned, you know, hopefully learned about what it is to both suffer from something and to support someone who also suffers from something as well, because that's something that she's never been portrayed as doing for Tyler, and it would be nice to see that for like once, right? Again, there might have been some more things that were said within this Chelsea and Cole segment, but like I couldn't. I tapped out. I wasn't really paying attention all that much. Next up, we get a preview of the upcoming season of Teen Mom OG, which looks just as lackluster as the last season was, and then Cheyenne dials in to tease her very own storyline about Corey and Taylor being pregnant. Next up on the stage are Kail and Jade, and Kail's personality is as off-putting as it has always been. I don't understand why this girl is always embarrassing herself talking about, oh, I want to host the reunions. Girl, like you sit there scowling at everyone and you just have such a nasty disposition for no reason. Like if the fact that new girls joining Teen Mom 2 threatens you so much that you admittedly dislike them automatically each time. What makes you think that being a host, you know, someone who's not really paid attention to in all of these things, because their job is just to facilitate the conversation, will work? Like, you know, you're very clearly someone who wants all of the attention in the world and does not want anyone else to have like a space to share their own story. So hosting, in my opinion, doesn't seem like something that would suit Kail at all. She's like, I was annoyed when Jade was coming, but I felt the same way about Briana. It just always feels that way. Like, even though I'm not really feeling Janelle right now, it's always been us four, and that's just, you know, it's hard to get away from that. I was like, I roll. And then Jade talked about the advice that she had gotten from Briana, which seemed nice enough. And then of course, Kail was rolling her eyes. It was like, listen sis, Briana dated your baby daddy for like a couple months, like a while ago. Like, do you really still have to keep rolling your eyes at this? Like, how old are you? You already moved on and had a baby by somebody else. Like, come on. Kail actually does admit though that she and Jade get along just fine. And then the girls from the young and pregnant cast join the stage next, and you can tell they aren't making any real money yet because those outfits were very budget looking. The advice the young and pregnant girls give each other is not to read the comments or fight with people online. And then the young and pregnant girls talk about how they found out about Jade joining Teen Mom 2 through the press, and Jade says it's because the producers told her not to tell anybody about it, and Kail says that it was the same situation with Teen Mom 2, that they found out through the press. And if you guys recall, Kail had like some meltdown about it on Twitter because Kail. And you know, it's very obvious this is the way television works. Like, producers want to create as much drama as possible, and obviously people are going to feel very territorial and threatened by this secret, and they were happy to get the kind of reactions that followed throughout the reunion and on social media as well. Guys, this is where the Teen Mom 2 reunion kind of turns into a young and pregnant reunion, and I was kind of like, am I watching the right thing? Like, what's going on here? Why are we still on the young and pregnant girls? So, you know, Dr. Drew asked Ashley how she felt about Jade moving to Teen Mom 2, and she said that she had no thoughts about it because she already knew about it before, because, you know, it was offered to her. She doesn't say that, but we already know that she said that this position was offered to her before Jade and that it was between the two of them. Kail, for some reason, decides to interject this conversation and say the exact same thing that I just said about the spot being between the two of them. And Ashley then calls Jade out for claiming that she lied about being asked to join Teen Mom 2, and Jade played dumb about it. And she was very docile with Ashley up until Dr. Drew got up in between them to try and like stop anything from potentially popping off. And so as soon as Dr. Drew gets up, all of a sudden Jade gets up, and then she starts talking like she's really gonna like hit Ashley or do something to her. I was like, I really cannot stand when people do that. Like, it's just so embarrassing. And then Kail's thirsty ass tries to get in on the confrontation. She gets up, she's like, Jade, walk off. You gotta walk off now. Jade, walk off. And then Jade ultimately does listen to her and walk off, which annoys me because, listen, I am paying to watch the show with an hour of my life. I don't want to watch people walk off stages. I want to watch like some trashy like fights go down, and here Kail is blocking all of that. Now, Ashley is a girl who knows how to deliver what the audience is looking for, so she goes for her next target, who is Kayla. And then Kail, noticing that all the attention would exclusively be on the young and pregnant couch if Ashley was going off with Kayla without her like interjecting, she asks Kayla to switch spots. She's like, Kayla, switch spots with me. And she gets up and takes her spot. And Nessa's like, Kail, you know, kind of obviously motioning for her to move back to her original spot because they're seated that way for a freaking reason. Producers want drama, Kail. And then Kail has a meltdown about it. She gets up. She's like, really, Nessa? Wow, Nessa. Goodbye. She gets off, storming off, takes off her jacket like she's a freaking sumo wrestler or something. She's like, see you later. And she did not get an ounce of the attention that she was looking for, and I lived for it. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire reunion. Her just like being a big diva, expecting people to try and drag her back as if she's a part of this like scene that's going on, and no one even pays attention to her. Nessa just like puts her hand on her head and shakes her head like, oh my god, like this broad. And the show just continues to go on, and Ashley just goes around telling everybody all the crap that Jade allegedly talked about them. Apparently Jade called Kayla a slut for having a second baby, and then she apparently said something transphobic about Briana's ex. Like, it was pretty damn messy. And then she's like, I've been supporting all of you guys. I reach out to you guys whenever something happens, and no one ever supports me, which I think is a pretty fair thing to be upset about. But you always have to be careful of the way you deliver certain things. It's always in the delivery, and getting up, threatening to beat people, spit on them, and like calling them BITCHs and HOSs is not the way to go about it, especially if you're going to go backstage and cry about how they're not reaching out to you. Like, you know, are you with it or are you not? Like, it was just really head spinning to watch. We then get a preview of what's to come on the rest of the season for Young and Pregnant, and guys, it completely crapped on both this entire season of Teen Mom 2 and the trailer for Teen Mom OG. And I'm like, you know what, like, it was really smart of the Teen Mom producers to put Young and Pregnant in the middle of this because it looks good, and I think I might tune in if it's possible, because like it's a mess. Like, there's some real life mess going on, and there's a lot of diversity. There's like a lesbian relationship, there's another relationship with a transgender person, there's a lot of like ethnically diverse people as well. Like, it looks good. Like, it's everything that the other seasons are not, and I want to tune in on it, like, if I have the time next month. After crying it out backstage, Ashley promises to not hit anybody if she were to return to the couches, and so the producers and the rest of the girls let her, and she immediately apologizes to Briana for all the threats that she had made before leaving the stage. And then she talks again about how she doesn't feel like she gets any reciprocation from any of the girls, and then Kayla and her get into it. Kayla accuses her of talking badly about her children, takes off her shoes. Like, it was just so Jerry Springer, and I have to say, I loved it. I'm hooked. I'm ready for more. Now, Briana, Devoin, and Brittany are the next up on the couch, sitting with Roxanne dialing in from Skype, and they talk about how they suspect Lewis of suffering from depression or something like that, and how disappointing it is that he's the one who didn't want Briana to put Stella up for adoption. He was like, no, we're going to be a family. I want to be a present father. And then she doesn't put the baby up for adoption, and he just doesn't show up for this child at all, even though it was all on him. And then they talk about how Devoin actually is a really good guy, and that's why they're a lot harder on him than they are on Lewis. And then we get a really touching scene about how loving Devoin is to Stella. They were like, you know, Devoin always promised that whatever Nova gets, he's going to give to Stella as well. Like, whenever he comes to see Stella or whatever, he brings her a gift. Like, and then Briana's mom talks again about how she feels like Briana should have invited Devoin to Stella's birthday party. And then Briana admits that in hindsight, if she could do it over again, she would invite Devoin. It's just, you know, they were in a bad place at the time because of the drinking incident at the pool, and because her boyfriend John was already there. So she's like, all of this just made me opt to not invite him, and I can't fault her for that. I probably would have done the same thing. And then Devoin said that he totally would have gone, and he was actually expecting to go because he's gone to her birthday party in the past, and he just noticed that like the day was approaching more and more, and no one sent him a formal invitation, and that's how he realized, wow, I'm not going to get invited to this thing. Now, in the final segment of the episode, we've got Chelsea, Leah, Kail, and Leah and Kail's children, but no Briana. I wonder why Briana was not allowed on the stage. If it was for violence, I would think that Kail would be the one who would have to sit it out, because she was the one inciting violence the entire last season. So that kind of pissed me off quite a bit, that Briana would not have been allowed to join the stage with the rest of the girls, despite the fact that it was Kail who sparked their physical altercation. So anyway, Gracie asked Dr. Drew to do a cartwheel, and he refuses to do it because of course. And then Addie is like, oh, like, can we get to the cards because I'm not sitting here for long? And they all laughed at it like it was cute. And I was just taken aback by how much Leah and Jeremy celebrate this child being so disrespectful to adults. Like, there's nothing cute about this. There's nothing adorable about this. To me, it's a reflection of very poor parenting, and I'm cringing so hard even just recalling like the freaking audacity of this child to be like, oh, can you get to the cards? I want to move on. I'm not sitting here for long. Sorry, who the heck are you? And this is nothing against Addie. This is just poor parenting. This is what happens when you poorly parent children, in my humble opinion. I personally think that Leah is on the Kail train of trying to get like spin-offs for their children, and she's probably coaching Addie to be this like insufferable child. And little does she know, it's going to be really difficult for this girl to make and keep friends in her future if she keeps speaking like this, because it's very like hard to tolerate. Like, it's not good. Isaac, Lincoln, and Gracie all then do that dance with the arms that all the little kids are doing these days. And then I finally noticed what else Chelsea may have done to her face besides the teeth when she was talking about Aubrey playing softball. Guys, I think she got even more lip injections, because like you can kind of see that like scar tissue or whatever it is, needle pricks on the sides of her lips. I feel like I've been saying this every season, but I gotta say it every single time because I always feel the same way. Whenever they have like these adults come up to the children on the mic and ask them questions about themselves, I get so freaking uncomfortable, because it just reminds you how weird and sad it is that these children's entire lives have been plastered on a show for like the last decade and a bit, you know, like the fact that like grown people are curious about like what these kids are, I don't know, like into eating, or like what do they want to be when they grow up, and all these things is like, I don't know how the parents are not uncomfortable, because these kids are almost at that age where they're gonna like go out with their friends alone to like, I don't know, the movies or the mall, and like some adults are going to be like, can I take a picture with you? I watch you on Teen Mom and all this stuff, and they're not going to be there. And this is what they set their children up for life. It's like their kids are like walking zoo animals or something like that because of decisions that they've made. And it always makes me sad. It really does. One of the ladies asks Isaac who his best friend on the show is, and he starts thinking, and I think they were kind of setting it up as, who do you have a crush on? So he starts thinking about it, and then Addie just screams, spit it out already. And again, they all laugh like it's cute and not like a symptom of a lack of discipline and structure in her home life. And then Isaac says that his best friend is his mom, and then his brothers as well, and I thought that was really sweet, but like it's just par for the course with Isaac. One thing that really stuck out to me as odd was Isaac's question to Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew was like, Isaac, I heard you had a question that you wanted to ask me. And so Isaac goes, yeah, Dr. Drew, why are you so funny on your podcast but not funny at the reunions? Okay, first of all, Isaac, why is your mom letting you listen to a grown-ass people's podcast? Like, that was odd. And Dr. Drew said the same thing. He's like, well, it's like two different audiences, and you know, I don't know that you should be listening to my podcast. And you can just tell, like, Kail probably felt like, oh crap, you know, in that moment, because it was weird. It's quite inappropriate for Isaac to be listening to Dr. Drew's podcast. It's a very adult podcast, not made for like 10-year-olds. Kail. Anyway, you guys, that's a recap of what went down on the Teen Mom 2 reunion, which turned into like a hybrid of OG and Young and Pregnant, just so you know how little content they have from these Teen Mom 2 girls to work with. I hope I didn't come off too harsh on Addie. Like, none of my criticisms of her are about her. It's 100% about Leah and Jeremy doing a poor job of disciplining her. Like, it's not her fault that her parents are goading these things from her. Like, they should be teaching her to be a lot more polite, especially when it comes to adults. Like, it's just not a good look at all. And that is 100% on Leah and Jeremy and 0% on Addie. I just want to make that clear. Anyway, you guys, as usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything. So please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.